Hi, I'm Kate Pinto, Coordinator of Evangelization and Pastoral Ministries.
And I'm Alex Craven, Faith Formation Coordinator here at Holy Trinity Parish.
I'm sure at this time, many of us in the parish are experiencing a number of thoughts, feelings, and emotions after Archbishop Dunn's announcement concerning the proposal to close St. Elizabeth Seton and St. Francis of Assisi church buildings.
Some of these thoughts and feelings may be more intense than others. Some of them may be exciting notions of the future of our parish. Some of them may be sorrowful or grieving at the prospect of losing something very near and dear to our hearts. Some may even feel overwhelming or inexpressible. And all of these thoughts, feelings, emotions, and reactions are very normal to experience in a time of transition such as this.
In this brief video, it's our goal to help parishioners like you do a self-check on where you might be at now and what may lay ahead moving forward. We hope to cultivate a framework for your thoughts and feelings surrounding the proposal. We also hope to help you prepare to give your feedback at one of the upcoming feedback sessions.
So just to ensure we're all on the same page, let's hear again the proposal itself and start to look into what this might mean for us as individuals and for us as a parish community.
Holy Trinity Parish leadership over the past 2 years formulated a 5-year plan and began a process of evaluation of the entire parish. They discovered that Mass attendance has had a 48% decline in the past years from 2009 to 2019. That building repairs and capital projects would cost a combined estimate of $500,000 to $1.5 million. That the parish has a deficit for 2019 only of $74,000 due to the operation of 3 buildings. Much of this information was presented to the whole parish community in last November in 2019, sharing details about the 5-year plan, finances, and the state of the buildings. Parish leadership continued to reflect on this information, and in February of this year, they made a recommendation to the Archdiocese that 2 churches, St. Elizabeth Seton, Lower Sackville, and St. Francis of Assisi Church, Mount Uniacke, be permanently closed as churches. Archbishop Mancini and I reviewed this recommendation, and seeing that it demonstrated great care for the community and attention to your needs, agreed to launch the 2nd phase of the process of discernment, a period of consultation and community input.
The proposal suggests we transition from a parish with 3 church buildings to a parish with 1 church building. The process of transition itself can often be uncomfortable to think about, let alone go through. Even positive transitions such as getting married, having a child, or getting a promotion at work come with uncomfortable elements which merit reflection and discernment.
As a parish, we are currently in the thinking about phase of a potential transition and are currently gathering information which will help the Archbishop in his discernment process. Figuring out our thoughts and feelings with respect to this potential transition is important for us personally as parishioners, but also in ensuring we provide the Archbishop with the most accurate information about our community that we possibly can.
Any transition we go through, desired or not, starts with ending the old state of affairs. A marriage means the end of single life. Moving to a new house means leaving behind the old one. Or the loss of a job means leaving that place of employment.
However, you might think that once you go through the ending of one thing, you go right into the beginning of the next thing. But that often isn't the case. Instead, we find ourselves in what some experts call the neutral zone, where we're not quite sure of our footing yet. This might be the most transition-y part of the whole experience, but it's the part where we have a lot of input into what the future is going to look like.
Eventually, the neutral zone gives way to the new beginning, where we settle into that new part of our lives and our response to that transition. The new thing becomes just the thing and becomes woven into the fabric of our lives.
So, with this groundwork in mind, let's now look at the possible transition and intentionally consider our own thoughts and feelings about it. We'll be looking first at considering it in our head space and then in our heart space.
As we intentionally contemplate this proposed transition, let's first focus on the endings portion of the transition process. Endings naturally come with losses or the release of certain things that we may have become very accustomed to or very attached to.
Transitions can pose some concrete losses to a number of places in our lives. We can feel like our turf is being lost. Turf can be both physical turf or relate to our responsibilities and contributions to our community. For example, you might be worried about losing attachments you have to people, places, things, or even ministries. Maybe you're worried about losing your identity as a particular community member.
Loss can also be a bit more abstract too. The idea of transition may make us feel like we're losing control of a key part of our lives, feeling like perhaps the presence of the church building was a given in your life, but now that might have to change, and that break between what you wanted and what may happen is causing pain or confusion. We can also feel like we're losing structure, a pattern of living that we relied on. Maybe, for instance, you were within walking distance of the church and now you'll have to drive. We might even feel like we're losing meaning in our lives, losing part or all of our connection with Jesus, or that we're losing a future we thought was on the horizon, but are now realizing that particular future might not come to be.
And your thought process in wrapping your mind around the proposal may have other considerations. There might be areas of loss that are as unique as the person experiencing them. Our list here is not exhaustive at all, and we want to consider all angles as best we can.
And we entrust these difficult moments to the Lord who works all things for good. What we suggest is to take these elements of loss to prayer and to speak them to the Lord and to Mary, who truly know the depth of feelings of loss, and in prayer discern which elements might be most pressing for you personally.
We also want to consider what our avenues for growth for our community may foresee in a potential transition. In a lot of cases, entering into transition creates opportunities for growth and positive development, even if those elements take longer than the elements of loss.
Maybe you anticipate a way in which we might use our parish's resources in a new way to reach out to others in our community. Maybe you look forward to a parish united more tightly in a common house under a common roof.
Maybe you foresee more involvement in ministries to carry out the parish mission. Maybe it's the dynamism and power of a large parish committed to proclaiming Christ and are looking forward to meeting new people. I want to ask you right now, where is your head at in the midst of this process? Feel free to pause this video to reflect on this further.
In your own experience, you may have found that you have a head on board but a heart that isn't. Or maybe you have a heart on board with a head that's still spinning. So let's turn now to an examination of the condition of our hearts.
While we are in the thinking about phase of a possible transition, we're also in a feeling about phase as well. And as with our thoughts, it's likely we have a number of feelings about the proposal as well.
Our emotions about a situation are just as valid as our thoughts, though sometimes they may feel more messy or overwhelming. However, the last thing we want to do is to block or stifle any emotional or grieving processes resulting from thinking about things, losing things that we care about.
As a universal church, we certainly grieve that any consideration at all needs to be given to the closing of church sites. As Holy Trinity Parish, we grieve that the way in which our parish looks and operates may have to change. And for members of the parish who generally affiliate with a particular church building, we grieve what might be feelings of loss of memories, identities, or unique community connection.
Some of you may be familiar with the 5 stages of grief, which psychologists use to help people assess, reflect on, and respond to the grieving process. Denial is the first stage of these, often accompanied by shock, avoidance of things which bring up painful feelings, confusion, or sometimes even elation as we try to come to grips with the situation.
Anger is another phase where we might respond with hostility, envy, or frustration as we work to overcome feelings of anxiety or resentment in light of the situation. Bargaining is another common response in these stages, where our instincts feel overwhelmed and may try to preserve or repair that which was lost, or find a way to undo any changes that have occurred.
The fourth stage is depression, in which we experience sadness, often a very deep sadness, even despairing that things could ever be okay again. Depression in this context can exhibit feelings of pessimism or guilt, feeling like somehow the whole situation is my fault. And the last stage is acceptance, where we've processed enough of our mental and emotional responses to a loss to consider new possibilities or to just be able to move on from the situation.
For some, these stages may be quick, and for others, much longer. Everyone grieves differently. What it is important to accept, process, and even share your emotional state and emotional responses with trusted people in order to move through a loss or a transition in a healthy way. Psychologists warn that emotions left bottled up or shoved aside don't go away and can turn toxic within the individual and the community.
The clergy and staff, the leadership team, the parish council, and the feedback facilitators all want to be active and exercising their care and concern for our community at this time, as I'm sure all our parishioners do. What we want is to listen to where our community is at and where their hearts are at. This is our parish and our parish. The outcome of these decisions will affect us all, and we are in this together, sharing in this difficult period of our parish life as the body of Christ. We are called to nurture, support, and care for each other during times such as these, and we pray for God's strength and guidance to cover us during this process.
I want to encourage you to pause this video right now and reflect on where your own heart is at during this stage of the process. The final portion of our video today invites us to reflect on our response to this news and to the potential transition we face. Again, assuming we move into a transition like the one proposed, we have a number of responses we could make as individual parishioners.
One response that's often tempting in any transition is trying to restore what was lost due to change. We may try, as much as possible, to return to the past state of affairs and to live in that moment. While it might be possible in some transitions, should the proposal be enacted by the Archbishop, it's not really a course of action we'd be able to take, though it's important to acknowledge that, particularly for some parishioners, that might be the most attractive response to take.
Another response might be to replace what we lost, to find a new one, so to speak. In this context, that response might look like changing parishes altogether, or on a smaller scale, finding a new pew or a parking spot.
Maybe, however, your response is one of redesigning. This response looks at the transition and imagines how we might do things differently as a result of the changes the transition would bring. It may rethink what the parish community looks like, or it might reconsider how a given ministry may operate in a new context.
Lastly, there is the response of relinquishing. Relinquishing lets go of the transitioned part of life entirely. That might mean letting go of a ministry or a role. It might mean letting go of a particular way of doing church. For some, it might even call into question their desire to participate in a church community at all.
And with all these examples, we don't offer any judgment or prejudice toward any one response. Rather, we invite our parishioners to prayerfully consider where they are and what mode of response they might be feeling among these examples, or again, among something unique to them entirely. We do ask, though, that in considering these things right now, you also share your feedback with us at one of the feedback sessions so that we can help give the Archbishop the biggest and most accurate picture of our parish sentiment as we possibly can.
As we enter this process of consultation and feedback, we're looking to hear from you.
If you haven't signed up for a session yet but would like to, please visit our website, holytrinityns.ca, or call our main office line at 902-865-2112.
As a parish, we want to discern and communicate clearly all points of view to aid the Archbishop in his decision-making process.
We know and feel fully that this proposal is a difficult thing, and it has a lot of ramifications for our parish community. We need as a parish to come together at this time to provide care and support for one another.
We hope these steps and tools are helpful to you in figuring out where you stand, what positives and negatives you see in the proposal, and what things might be easier or harder transitions than others, and what ways we can respond as individuals and as a wider community to such a transition.
Please keep our parish, our community, and our leadership in prayer during this discernment process, and let us entrust ourselves entirely to God's love, which never leads us astray.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to receiving your feedback at one of the small group facilitation sessions.